If you have an interest in horses and love learning more about horses, the horse industry, teaching, or even managing your own horse business, then you're in the right place. We would love you to join us on our mission, which is to improve the lives of horses around the world through the education of riders, handlers, and trainers. So get comfortable, listen in, and enjoy.
Welcome back to Horse Chats, everyone, and welcome back to our Equitana Educator Series. Today we've got on Kim Thompson, but before we introduce Kim, I'd just like to remind people that if you'd like to work in the horse industry but you're not sure where to start, then have a chat to our friendly team at internationalhorsecollege.com. Internationalhorsecollege.com has got a wide variety of horse courses, from the complete beginner to the qualified professional, with students in over 20 countries. The other thing is too that International Horse College considers your individual requirements and guides you in the right direction, not just the course that they think you should be in, but a bit of a chat, what your goals are and where you'd like to go, and also too talking about what your experience is now. If there's any uphill or recognition of any prior learning or any other qualifications they need to take into consideration. So have a look now, internationalhorsecollege.com, registered training organisation 31352. Now, Kim is going to present at Equitana, and she specialises in teaching high-level relationships with horses. She does bridleless riding and liberty training. So welcome, Kim. How are you?
Thank you very much, Glenys. I'm very well today.
Kim, just so people can get to know you a little bit better and understand where you're coming from, what's your favourite inspirational quote or something that you find yourself telling others or telling yourself or teaching others? What's that something that you do over and over again?
Yeah, I think it's be the change you want to see is one of my big ones, because I think that leading by example, you need to be able to show the example. So that is one of the big things, and that's why I love what I do with my horses now with regards to the Liberty Connection. It's because I'm having a beautiful relationship to share with the world with my horses. So that's what I like to help and promote.
So when you first started, did you have a background with horses before you started the Liberty training?
Yeah, I actually grew up with horses. So I did pony club and I competed at eventing and show jumping. But it was the real epiphany after I had children that I discovered Liberty through equine therapy. And when I discovered Liberty, I thought it was the absolute missing link to all of our horsemanship. So I'd done a little bit of natural horsemanship in between, but I still felt that when I combined the groundwork skills, the Liberty connection with relationship, and then the ridden, it all came together in a beautiful alignment so I could achieve things I'd never dreamt of ever achieving with my horses.
So within the Liberty, if someone sees you, sees you speak at Equitana, and they say, I think I'll try Liberty with my horse, what's the sort of advice you give them first up?
I just tell them to spend some time with your horse, observing your horse in its natural state, so you can get an idea of learning the intricate parts of the horse and their reactions. And then when you are ready to implement it, start in your arena and then see what happens when you take the halter off. So we want our horses to stay with us and look to us as a leadership role. So if our horses are walking away from us if we take the halters off, then that's when we need to start with learning a little bit on how to connect with the horses, and then them wanting to stay with us and do things with us without us forcing them to do it.
Yep. Okay. That's great. Do you have just one horse that you do Liberty with now, or you have a few? Tell us about that.
Oh, I've actually got 9 horses, but some are my children's. But I have been really blessed to be able to work with a whole range of different personalities. So I found different ways to connect with different hierarchies of horses, because you've got dominant horses which need a little bit of a different connection compared to a really sensitive horse that needs a lighter connection cues. So yeah, there's a big range, and that's how I've managed to develop my methods to reflect what works best for the horses, because they're also different. And same with when I'm teaching it, I'm working with completely different human personalities. So I have to find the best way that the connection's going to happen in the most authentic way for them.
Which is your favourite? I know it's like,
Favourite?
not a
Horse.
favourite horse, not having favourite children, but one that you might have worked with a little bit longer than the other.
Yeah, look, I obviously don't have an exact favorite, but one that has, I suppose, captured my heart the most is my Frisian Yarden because of his background with being an extreme bolter when I got him, and he put his last owner in hospital, and I never actually expected to ride this horse. Being able to perform recently last month at Croc Castle bareback bridleless in front of thousands, for me that's the connection that shows that where we started as a partnership compared to where we are now, everything has come together so beautifully. And I appreciate him so much for that. Yeah.
So when you first got him, and you spent some time with him, found out a little bit more about his personality, his quirks, anything else. What's the first thing that you actually taught him to respond to you with?
It was relaxation, actually teaching him how to relax. It was not a trick, I suppose. It's more about just he'd been put under so much pressure internally, and that was what I was being shown of the awareness with him, that I wanted to help him learn to actually relax.
Just tell us a little bit about how you did that.
So with relaxation, the biggest thing I find with relaxation is the fact that we need to be relaxed first. So if we are internally worried or thinking things that aren't helpful for the horses, then they're going to react to that. So first and foremost, it's making sure that I'm in complete relaxation myself. That's how then I can help project that energy to help him know that he's in a safe space to relax. And then I will work on little movements that will help him to relax, like just lowering of the head, because Frisians naturally are very upright in their stances, especially when they get worried. So just being able to ask him to have his pole beneath his wither, for example, and just standing in that sort of relaxed state and seeing if you can stay in it, because a lot of horses can lower but they won't stay. So it's just being able to first and foremost teach them that, and then if I'm walking around with them, same thing, can we achieve it in movement? So it's one of my biggest, I suppose, stable things in my teachings is relaxation is number one.
So, I'm just trying to prepare people, if they think along the lines of liberty, what sort of things, like taught him to relax and the steps towards, and I'm sure no one should be doing this, I've done step one yesterday, I'll do step two today, because you might be saying, a few steps, but there's actually a few thousand or a few million steps that you've got to look at. The next step, once you've got your horse relaxed.
Yeah. So if you can achieve relaxation, you want to allow your horse to follow you. So if I'm at liberty with my horses, the number one thing after relaxation is, can they follow me? Because I am trying to replicate a herd environment. So what I'm wanting to be is like a leader for my horses. So they need to be able to trust me enough and be able to follow me over anything. So I love to work with obstacles and get their brains working. So instead of just following in a blank arena, I always make sure it's interesting and fun for them. So I can get them just to allow them to follow me, but I'm still in what I call relaxation mode when I'm doing it. I'm not in what I call training mode. So my body's still nice and relaxed. So they're wanting to stay in that connection through relaxation.
All right. Anything else we need to know about liberty? Anything that you feel is very important within the steps, because I suppose every horse is different, and if you're going to teach them things, it depends on the individual horses and personalities, and I suppose the personality of the person, but the relaxation sounds very important.
Yeah.
And it's almost like, does the horse want to be with you? Because every time you go in there and the horse pings off to the other end of the paddock, you know that you haven't got that trust. It's got to be a certain amount of trust if your horse is following you. Anything else that we need as a definite foundation to liberty training?
Yeah, absolutely. So I would say the next thing after you've achieved those two things is then seeing how comfortable they are in pressure. So pressure, as we know, we're using it in our riding, we're using it when we're needing to ask them for like going on floats and things like that. So pressure is really, really important for us to understand where is our horse sitting in the comfortability of the pressure we're putting on it. And so that's when we need to, when we're at liberty, when we do exert some pressure. So, for example, asking a horse to back up, is the horse then still staying with us in that pressure, or are they leaving? And if they're leaving, it's telling us that we've used too much pressure.
Okay. Now, and I understand it's quite a big jump from getting the horse to relax, trusting enough to follow and not trying to get away because you put a bit of pressure on. So I suppose that's still trust as well.
Yeah.
Getting to the stage where you're riding, and did you say jumping? You're jumping your horse bridleless?
Yeah.
Okay, so say if you're training your horse bridleless, the horse is going well with a saddle and bridle or with a bridle because the saddle doesn't make as much difference as the bridle for control. What's your first step then to saying, well, now, or what do you need to do and check while they've still got the bridle on before you say, I'm now going to start progressing towards riding without a bridle? And the other thing is too, that we've got to remember, you've done this a few times, so we don't want people to just try this afternoon on their horse, that they
No, safety first.
absolutely safety first, but just, taking safety, but just give us a little bit of an idea of, still talking about foundations, the next step. What does the horse need to be able to do as a test before that you can even think about riding them without a bridle?
Yeah, that's a really great question. And the best way I can answer that is because, like you said, I've done this so many times, I can literally get onto most students' horses and ride it bridleless from word go, and they don't know me. And that's because of the alignment that I have within me, as in my thoughts, my emotions, everything is a really clear signal for the horses to be understanding of what I'm going to expect and ask of them. And then I have a certain level of confidence to be able to ask it clearly. So we've got to firstly look at ourselves first. And when we're emitting like what I call positive energy, the horses are really warm to that and they feel safe in that. So what then I ask if I'm riding bridleless, they will listen to and they will clearly understand. Whereas if, and this is what my steps when I teach someone to ride bridleless, is first and foremost, if you're scared or you're worried that something's going to happen, we don't do it because you're not in the right energy to be able to give that horse the confidence to be able to be ridden in this fashion. Because like you said, control is so important. And if you can't control your own emotions, then there's no point trying to allow that control to be on your horse. So, steps usually that I take is helping people get out of the mindset that we actually need a bridle for control or a bit to control. A lot of people have been conditioned that we need a bit to control a horse, and it's actually not the case. We need to have that relationship, we need to have the training in place to be able to go forward to ride a horse in this way. Like I can ride out bridleless on a trail ride on the beach. I don't need to have everything in place with control of a horse with a bit because I have that relationship level at a very high level that they listen to me. And if there is something that's going on, I can ask them to come back to me and not worry about what's going on in external world. So number one is just getting that mindset from if they're ridden in a bit, we go bitless first. So it helps the owner see that first transition from, okay, we're now removing a bit. So now we're trying bitless. And then we go through some bitless stages of going, okay, this is how we control the horse without a bit. And usually that's then my main focus is body language. Like we're not riding with reins so much, we're riding with our bodies. Because when we transition a horse from a bridle to bridleless, we don't have reins. So we need to make sure that we're riding with our seat and our leg aids and our mental clarity aids with our mind. So there's so much in regards to just allowing people to understand what their body can actually do to turn a horse and things like that before we even think about going bridleless. And then when we've got that established, we incorporate, I like to use a Liberty ring, which is not rope. It's a better mechanism for having more buttons to control, is what I say. Whereas a rope just hangs, and most horses, if they've worn a breastplate, they will push into the pressure of a rope. Whereas a ring is more solid and you can actually maneuver it easier. So that's when we start to transition from the bitless bridle, popping the ring on and using just the ring, but we've got the backup of the bridle for the riders so they can understand that if the horse isn't finally listening to their body aids and then backing up with the ring, then they've got a backup of a bridle. So once again, safety first. And then once we've got that established, that's when we do try bridleless. And it's in a contained, safe area to make sure that both horse and rider feel completely comfortable.
Tell me a little bit more about the ring. What size is it? What's it made from? Can you undo it and then put it back together, or you just put it over the horse's head? Just tell me a bit about that.
Yeah, so the first ring that I discovered was from Tellington Touch. So it was from Canada. And they're made out of a firm lariat, like a lasso. But as COVID happened and I couldn't get access to them when I was doing my teachings, one of my dear friends who rode her horse bridleless, we discovered that she could make them, and she's now called Zimmerines. And it's a really good system of having a little grip handle and the lariat. So it's better actually than the other Tellington Touch ones because you've got actually a handle, as in for humans to be able to hold it, which is softer than just the lariat. Yeah, it's firmer.
Mm.
Yeah.
So you'll be riding the horse with the ring at Equitana, so people will get to find out a little bit more about different innovations, I suppose. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I have tried everything bridleless, as in I have tried all different sort of systems. I've even tried a hula hoop at one stage. Don't use a hula hoop. It's not good.
So what do you do with the ring? Do you put it over the horse's head, or does it put it to the side and then it joins? Which
Yeah, no,
way?
it's solid, so it needs to be placed over the horse's head like reins. Yeah.
And do you have any problem with horses that say, "Don't put that thing near me. I don't want it near me. I don't want it over my head"?
I've never come across a horse because most horses are used to having their reins put over their head, so there's never really been any issues with the ring. Yeah.
I just know on, I think, was it War Horse the movie? And the
Okay.
horse said, "No, I don't want that on." But he spent, quite a bit of time to get that. It's really the harness for the
Ah,
pulling,
yes.
right?
Yeah. It's
Spent
it's
time
a
with
very fine like lariat, so it's not like a big,
probably
thick,
quite easy.
heavy look.
Yep,
Yeah.
okay, that's fair enough. Yeah. And will you be riding yourself?
Yes, I will be.
What sort of preparation are you doing then for Equitana
So
with
with
your horse?
preparation, I like to just obviously keep my connections happening. So I do a lot of out in the open bridleless riding. So I'll take the horses to different places. So making sure that I can achieve a connection, say on the beach, for example, where I'm not in an environment that they're used to and that they're going to have more distractions, and just see where we're sitting with our connection and being able to ride that way. And yeah, I think the biggest thing about Equitana is the crowds and the clapping. So that's one thing that was really great for me to perform recently at Cryle Castle with all of that, and the horses were amazing. So my Warm Blood, who's doing the jumping, that was his very first performance in a big crowd. And he was fabulous bridleless. He just did everything as I was hoping. Actually, probably better.
Good,
Yeah.
good, good. All right. Now, where you are now, teaching Liberty, teaching a better connection, teaching bridleless, have you ever had people say, "Oh, that's just all, fairy stuff. You shouldn't be doing that. It's not safe. Don't do it." People not accepting your ideas and saying that their ideas are better. Have you ever had any of that? Because I want to know, if you have, how you've handled it to get where you are now.
Absolutely. I think, especially when I actually just started bitless, there was a big not an understanding of it, and then I suppose quick to judge on how safe it is. And because I already had the research with veterinarians like Dr. Cook and the understanding of how actual pain works in the horse, and then being able to give them an answer on a level of logic, it definitely helped to get a better understanding. So it's education, I think, is everything. And I think moving forward, for future, when you look at the history of just bits, for example, like the snaffle bit was invented for Napoleon's era when they needed a lot of unskilled riders to ride horses very, very quickly for war. So that was, for me, a really good example to be able to give people, to say, look, before that, it was classical horse dressage was always done in a cavesson first, and then when they got up to the high levels of education, they implemented just a curb bit for that really high refinement. And they were very, very highly skilled riders to be able to refine it to the beautiful levels in those days, which took years and years of training. So understanding like where things have been implemented and how we can change them. And I think, all my horses now are ridden without bits because they like the comfort of it. And I don't compete, so I don't need the rules as such. So I know that I can achieve, collection and things like that ridden in a bitless bridle. I know how to do that. And I think that's just, being able to educate people that you can do dressage, you can do, jumping, they've been doing bitless that's still been allowed. But yeah, it'd be nice to see a change in the dressage world, like over in Europe, where they can have the option to ride without a bit. Just more choices for horses one day will be amazing, because my horses are so happy without that in their mouth. And I just think, well, I'd rather their comfort than the need for it. And like I said, it's not a control issue. It's just being able to have the training in place and knowing what you're doing with that training and the relationship. Because if your horse loves and trusts you, it's going to be able to listen to you no matter what.
Yep, yep. And we're all about, the promotion of horse welfare. So if horses can do it in a different bit or in a different gear, but still get marked according to the rules,
yes,
then, I'm sort of all for that. Now, your work as an animal communicator, do you have any case studies, where you've been able to communicate with a horse and the horse has been able to tell you something that, hadn't been known previously, and, and then the owner's been always wondering about this particular horse?
Oh, I have so many of those.
We only need one, but,
Okay, let me think of the one that comes to mind. There was one that had a health condition, for example, that vets couldn't diagnose. So the owner was really wanting to find answers that the science, I suppose, couldn't find.
What sort of symptoms did the horse have for the health condition?
It was slightly lame. It was, I suppose you'd say, dull, not wanting to move forward. Trying to think what else it had. Just was probably the slight lameness that they could never quite pinpoint when, like, they'd done x-rays, they'd done, scans, they'd done quite a lot of things for this horse, and nothing came up. Like, physically, the horse was fine, as they couldn't find it. So
the owner's been with a horse for a while, and they know the horse. Then the owners know. The person who's been with the horse for a while knows the horse, knows their usual behaviour, the usual character, and if that changes, they'll be able to put their finger on it. But yes, I understand.
Yeah, exactly. And so, they got me to do a communication session with it, and it turned out that there was like a gelding scarring issue. So that was one area that they didn't actually look at. So then they could get the right person to, because the general vet didn't have that specialty, if that makes sense. And then by being able to help pinpoint, they could get the specialist, then could give the manipulation, and the horse became sound again and happy. And yeah, so it was a really beautiful outcome.
Now, you wanted to talk about something else before we go. You know, we've sort of talked through the chats that you're going to do at Equitana. You know, I'm sure there's going to be a lot more because they're usually we've chatted for 45 minutes, but you're going to do 45 minutes on each of them. So I think if this has piqued your interest, make sure. And the other thing is too, you know, while I want to tell people about, this time, this day, this place, what you need to do is look at the program, you know, because things change at the last minute and sometimes people are moved around, and get there early just in case, again, something's had to be moved. You know, it's a busy schedule and the staff work really hard to keep things running and running smoothly, running on time. But just in case there's a bit of a hiccup and you want to get the whole presentation, make sure you're there in plenty of time.
Mm.
So anything else that you'd like to talk about, or any questions that I've forgotten to ask you?
Oh, no, you've done an amazing job with all your questions. Thank you so much. I would just slightly love to bring up just some awareness. I'm really hoping to make a beautiful change at Equitana in future with regards to having females put in star positions, because as we know this year, it's been all dominated by male. And I think that we have an amazing amount of talented women at this level to be able to present at star level. So I think it would be wonderful to see a change at Equitana to at least have 50% women doing these star presenting roles instead of just an all-male lineup.
Because equestrian is one sport where males and females are pretty equal. I know when I was in Pony Club, they split the males and the females, which I thought was so unfair. I'd go up at open shows and I'd go up against the males, and, you know, one in particular I could beat, and yet he'd go out and he'd be winning the overall champion because it was boys rather than the age group. And I thought, I can beat that guy. How come he's winning overall championship? This is so unfair. Males and females should be combined. But that was quite a few years ago, and since then I've been competing and it's just been on an open playing field. So I've been very happy about that. What I've found, okay, and this is just my knowledge and background and everything else, is that there's a much higher percentage of females at the introductory level, the lower level, you know, the beginner level, the level where the girls go, I just want to get a pony, and the boys say, I just want to get a tractor or ride a bike or do something a little bit different. You know, it's the animal connection that draws the females in. But then as we go through the competitive levels, a lot of females drop off because physically they might have kids, whereas the males have kids, but they just keep going. You know, so I can see that in the top level, a lot of the time it's just, not always, because we still have quite a few female competitors, but a lot of the time the males are the show, but because they're better. So if you want because that's what we want. We want the best people for Equitana. So if you were going to change the star presenters around, is there a female that you particularly think should be in there? That's up to the level, because I think the star presenters are great. You know, I think I think all the educators so far are great. But you know, there's someone that you think should
Yeah, I
be in
think you've
there
got
that
a
has.
really yeah, I was going to say, I think you've got a really interesting point in more the past, because we just have to look at our Olympic team this last year, and that's predominantly female, and that's you saying the best. And I agree, we need to have the best. So I think because we are seeing the best as females in our Australian team, we should be promoting the best and looking at the best in these genres aren't necessarily the people that are getting the positions. So, for example, Alize Fremont, who is a world-class performer, she was willing and happy to come to Equitana this year to be a star presenter. So she is at a Grand Prix dressage level, riding bridleless, performing bridleless, and having that high level connection with horses that you're asking to be the best. So we definitely have women talent that could do these positions very, very easily. And that's why we're hoping to make this change, because one of our prominent slogans is we can't be what we can't see. And so as a female coming up, how can we be the best if we're not seeing the best as a female? So I think it'd be lovely to see equality at that high level of, presenters.
All right. Well, I think also too that people get a survey. They get a survey after Equitana. Who do you think was the best? And that's just the educators, not just the star ones. And if there are people in the educator that you think should be star, then I think you just need to, vote with your feet and put those details on the survey that you fill in after Equitana. So I would urge everyone to fill in the survey after Equitana and put in the educators that you do prefer, just so that then the people who are selecting them can have a look and say, oh, well, this particular presenter got a lot of high votes and we should look at them. I think that's probably the best way to go, is just to look at because we want the best, okay, and just say, right, this is someone who should be a star presenter. And I think don't just say, oh, yeah, it's a survey, I couldn't be bothered answering, but answer the survey. Let people know, vote on your feet, and then that way we're going to have the best. We'll already have the best, the best Equitana next year or next time to have. Yeah, and if people, now that you've brought their attention to it, are thinking equality, females, I just want the best, whether they're male, female, I'm not looking at that. But, I can understand your point, and I think that let's put it out there that people fill in their surveys.
Yeah, thank you. And I think, like you said before, it was really beautiful that as females, we definitely work different with horses. So when we're trying to learn off someone, we need to have both perspectives, because a male can teach us some things, but a female can teach us a lot more as a female. So I think, on that basis, we should definitely be having at least both.
Yep. All right. Well, look, that's great, and good to talk to you, Kim. Good to hear what you're doing at Equitana, but also to get your perspective on the star presenters as well.
Thank you so much.
Okay, so thank you, and we'll catch up with you at Equitana.
Great. Thank you, Glenys. You have a wonderful weekend.
If you've enjoyed this chat, then please comment, rate and subscribe. If you'd like any changes or recommendations for guests, then please contact us through horsechats.com. And while you're online, have a look at the government-accredited courses at internationalhorsecollege.com. Registered Training Organisation 31352.
Remember that our comments and instructions are general in nature and do not take into consideration your individual horses or your individual ability and circumstances. If you enjoyed this podcast, then please leave your comment below.